In this video, we are going to talk about color management. We'll define what color management is and why Netflix cares about it, show what a non-color managed workflow looks like contrasted with a color managed one, and finally touch upon ACES, the Academy Color Encoding System, which helps standardize color management. What does color management mean to Netflix? Color management is a term we use to describe how the image is managed between camera and delivery. Proper color management means color is captured and maintained throughout production and post-production at the highest quality and fidelity, increasing the likelihood that the creative intent, the look, will be maintained throughout the production process and onto our service. With color management, dailies will match what the creative saw on set. Editorial can understand the visual tone of the scene with confidence and make better decisions about the cut. And visual effects and graphics artists can create elements that will fit together seamlessly with the work of all other departments. To understand why color management is so important, let's look at what happens without color management. Cameras have been capable of capturing high dynamic range, high fidelity images for quite a long time. However, due to limitations of power, heat, and other factors, display technology is not as capable as camera technology in terms of dynamic range and color. So, in order for images to look correct on a display, some image data must be thrown away in order to fit or limit the range of the particular display. In a non-color managed workflow, creative decisions about the image are made with no regard as to how it was acquired and are dialed in to look correct only on one select display type. In imaging science, this style of working is often called a display-referred workflow. While nothing is technically wrong with this way of working, it quickly becomes limiting since those color decisions are tied to one specific display technology. And that makes collaboration harder between teams on a production who use different display technology to do their best work. Even with properly calibrated displays, a non-colored managed workflow can easily cause misalignment between departments since no one is looking at quite the same image, which can cause confusion and lost time when trying to communicate creative decisions. So what does a color managed workflow look like? If, in a non-color managed workflow, color decisions are tied to the display's color space, in a color managed workflow, color decisions are made based on the original image data, independent of any specific display. That original image data is referred to as scene data. The scene refers to physical objects being captured by the camera, in this case, an image of Los Angeles. Professional cameras have the ability to store images in what is called a scene-referred state. This means the data is stored in terms of light intensities, or luminance, of the scene being captured, rather than storing in terms of light or luminance of a particular display. Each camera's scene-referred color spaces are also referred to as camera-native spaces. Not only do they all look different, but notice how all the colors appear dull and flat? That is because while these formats are the most efficient way to store color and luminance data, they are not meant to be viewed directly by the human eye. To get these images to look correct without locking them into one specific display requires the use of a display transform, also sometimes called an output or viewing transform. It is this transform, rather than a human, that handles the job of getting the image information to look appropriate on the output display. You may have also heard the term show LUT being used in regards to this process. A show LUT is just a way in which an output transform is creatively adjusted to add an overall production-specific look. But no matter what it's called, this process involves the conversion or transform of image data from its scene-referred color space, such as the log color space shown on the left, to a display-referred color space, such as Rec. 709 or P3 shown on the right, so it can be correctly viewed. With color-managed workflows, all sources from any kind of camera or computer-generated imagery get converted into one unified scene-referred color space without sacrificing dynamic range or color fidelity. This unified color space becomes what is known as the working color space. With the working color space properly set, everyone on the production can do their creative work, whether that's setting a look, creating a graphic, or building a visual effects element, on images that contain all of the original scene data, with the flexibility to easily view the images properly on a variety of displays. Here's another way to think about color management. It's like having a screwdriver with switchable heads versus having one screwdriver with a single head. Having just a single head screwdriver is like working display referred. It can be useful in some circumstances, but not all. Whereas working color managed is like having a removable head screwdriver where your work can be adapted to fit many situations. So, what about ACES? You may have heard the acronym ACES when referring to color management. ACES, which stands for the Academy Color Encoding System, is an open source framework that enables scene-referred color management in a standardized way. With ACES, you have input transforms, standardized scene-referred working spaces, and output transforms built for a myriad of display types. Color-managed workflows are often thought of as big, scary, and hard to manage. But with frameworks like ACES, these workflows are much easier to manage, scale, and implement on projects of all types, no matter their budget level or where they are being produced in the world. Each step of the production process necessarily has different requirements and/or limitations when it comes to viewing images. A production might have an on-set monitoring in SDR, but both SDR and HDR dailies. Visual effects artists might need to view in SDR at their desks, but review in HDR with their supervisor. Color management gives creatives confidence in knowing their vision and craft are being accurately portrayed and maintained throughout the pipeline. More video resources can be found on our YouTube channel. We also welcome you to visit the Netflix Partner Help Center to access a wide selection of guidance and best practices.